afternoon, everyone. I am Mandana Yousefi, and this is my husband.
Ian Reese.
And we are the founders of Nextblock. We are really excited to be here today to talk about this journey that we've been on, trying to build something that has never existed before on Nostr. So it started a few years ago. Ian had just gotten really into Bitcoin, and I had this crazy idea that we should start this podcast where he'd be orange pilling me, and we'd record it, share it with our friends and family, and that could be how they would also get orange pilled. We call it Flirting with Bitcoin, and we have been doing it for years now, which is crazy to think about. But if you study Bitcoin, eventually you learn about Nostr, or the other way around, but our journey was Bitcoin and Nostr. And as we're learning about Nostr, as other people have talked about today, your mind just explodes, because it is the coolest thing ever, and it unlocks so many possibilities. So while Ian and I have been doing this podcast, we were dealing with how difficult it is to promote yourself on the internet. When we would promote ourselves, it would work, right? We'd get more listeners, but it's a trap. Advertising is a trap. So we suddenly had Nostr and Bitcoin and realized that with those two technologies, something really cool is possible. And there comes our idea, which is a new way to advertise online. The idea is that people set a price for their attention. What do you want to get paid for 60 seconds of your time? On the other side of this attention marketplace, you have advertisers who set the highest bid that they're willing to pay someone to watch their ad. Then, as you're scrolling, whenever there's a new Bitcoin block, the marketplace looks for a match. If there's a match, you get offered an ad. If you watch it, you get paid. Then you can opt out of seeing that ad again and opt out of seeing that advertiser again, and you just go back to your scrolling experience. And because it's on Nostr, you have just earned some Bitcoin that now you can zap out. And we think this would actually establish a robust Bitcoin circular economy on Nostr. So we have this crazy idea. And Ian and I look at each other and think, okay, well, I think we could actually do this. Ian's a software developer. I was a product owner for an app at our day jobs. And we sat down and we put together a manifesto. Oops. Oh, wait, what just happened? You guys got to see the whole presentation. So,
Don't look.
don't look. Okay, here we go. A year ago. So, a year ago, we published a manifesto, which was outlining what our idea was for how our social media app could work that paid you to watch ads. So with this manifesto, we hit the road. So exactly a year ago, we were right here at the first Nostr Valley talking and sharing this idea with some of you in this room. Thank you. And it was great. For everyone here, you already know how great it is to go meet people in person who know Bitcoin and Nostr. But it was really valuable for us because you can't talk about this stuff to people who don't understand it. They fully get what we're trying to do. And so with this manifesto, we came to Nostr Valley. We went to a Bitcoin conference in Amsterdam, a Nostr pre-conference event there. We stood at the booth, talked to anyone about it that we could, that would listen to us. We presented the idea of adopting Bitcoin last year in El Salvador as well. And we were just looking for signals, like, will this actually work? Is this a good idea? Is anyone else already doing this and it didn't work? Does the technical foundation that Ian is operating off of, like, does this make sense? And as we were looking for these signals, we really got the best signal that we possibly could. So I have to give a shout out for it, like name drop Uncle Rockstar. This is actually a photo of the last night of us in Amsterdam for the Bitcoin conference there. And that's our podcast producer, Ramon, with Uncle Rockstar. But you know, he tries to be a mentor of the community. So he took the time, he listened to our idea, we talked to him a lot. He walked us through like his experiences, gave us business advice. And at the end, like, he was like, okay, well, what do you guys need from me? Like, how can Uncle help? Which is, you know, what he says. And we were like, we're very serious about this. We want to fund it with our own Bitcoin. We want to build this. We think this will work. And he's like, okay, well, what do you want from me? And we're like, we need a team. We need engineers. You know, Ian wants to build a team of engineers to get this done. And he's like, look, this will work. This is a good idea. This will work. But it will only work if you build it. And he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at Ian. He's like, you have to build this. This is your idea. You have to build this. And it absolutely was not the advice that Ian wanted. He's been doing this for 20 years. He's tired, but it was the advice we needed. And truly, like, we think about this advice constantly because it was the best thing he could have told us. So from there, you know, we've been working on, does this work? Yes. From there, we have that signal to start building. But what do we actually want to build? So the concept is Nextblock City, which is a digital city-state that has one simple rule. Citizens always own access to their attention. And so it's more than just this ad experience that we're talking about. It's a full social experience where you are deciding what you see all the time. And so even though we were riding this high of like people liking our idea or traveling, meeting really cool people, getting new ideas from them, we were faced with like the reality that we're just two people. Even though we're capable, we're just two people. How could we possibly put out a social media app that pays people to watch ads? So we got a little strategic and we realized the first thing we need to put out is the proof of concept for this new ad experience of setting your attention price and then getting matched with advertisers, right? So the first thing we are putting out, our first product, is called Billboard. Billboard is a web app which will be the first operating attention marketplace. So it'll be the first place that people can go and buy and sell their attention with Bitcoin. So, oops, I'm getting ahead of myself. So we continued to look for the signals. We started building, and out of nowhere, I got this email very late night from Elon Musk. Yes, you guys have heard about this. Elon Musk sent me an email, and he said, "You're doing a really great job at work, but I would love if you stopped, and I will pay you for the next 8 months. But you got to stop working right now." And it was an offer I couldn't refuse. It was the deferred resignation program that they offered to federal employees. So it was a no-brainer. It was the sign. Ian had already quit his job. And eventually I was going to go full-time. So suddenly I was working full-time for Bitcoin and Nostr. And Ian and I, yeah, everyone quit your job. Quit your job today if you haven't already. But we're working full-time, both Ian and I, and the next signal comes. We realize that sovereign engineering is about to start up again, the next cohort 4, this past spring. So in the past, it would have been impossible. Ian got into the first cohort, but like, how could he leave and go to Madeira for 6 weeks? This time he could. So we packed up our family and we flew with my parents and our toddler to Madeira. And we got to participate in the sovereign engineering program for 6 weeks, and it was phenomenal. If you don't know anything about this program, please look it up. But it was a crash course. It was a crash course in understanding what Nostr is. And like, we are all still learning what Nostr is and what's capable. But vibe coding was really big, that cohort, as you can imagine. And really understanding more what it means for open source code and open source protocols. And it was so valuable because we went in there we always thought we were gonna build Nextblock, we'll put it out, it'll work, and then we'll make it open source. But in sovereign engineering, we learned that for it to actually be decentralized and work, we have to do protocols first.
And that's where I come in. So we have protocols, they're on GitHub, and we can link to them later. But in my experience as a software engineer, the metaphors you use to describe your systems ultimately influence the design and the outcome of your systems. That's just experience that I've learned. Maybe other people have learned that as well. And so for Nextblock, we are using the city metaphor. You've seen it up in the header, right? Nextblock city. So with that metaphor, I'm going to walk you through our roadmap for the next year or two as though we are building a city. Sound cool? All right, cool. So first, as Mandana said, we have the manifesto. You can think of the manifesto as our Declaration of Independence. We are putting out the vision that your attention is your property. You're a sovereign individual. Your attention is your property. And anything that goes against that idea is not allowed in Nextblock City. After the manifesto, we have the promo protocol. Now, this is the protocol that Mandana was talking about. You can think about the promo protocol as the Constitution. If your attention is your right, if your attention is your property, how do we protect your property? How do we structure our systems so that everyone is honoring those rights that we say all of the citizens of Nextblock City have? And then the observatory is the first actual product that we have shipped as Nextblock, the company. You can think of the observatory as Nextblock City's Big Ben. And what Nextblock City's Big Ben does is it observes the Bitcoin blockchain. Every time there's a Bitcoin block mined, that's when the city kicks into action. We do the market making, we do the whatever other systems that we need the city to do. It's the observatory that is observing the Bitcoin blockchain and kicking those processes off. Cool thing about this one is, as I was building it, I made a little discovery. And if anyone's heard this before, like, let me know. I couldn't find anyone talking about this on the internet, but the Bitcoin blockchain follows very similarly the lunar calendar that humans have been following for however long you believe humans have been on the planet. I won't get into the technical details of it, but our last podcast episode, I go very deep into this idea. All you need to know is that there's 13 cycles in the lunar cycle, and there's 13 cycles in Bitcoin blockchain every year. 2 difficulty adjustments every month gets you 13 cycles. So when I made this discovery, and sticking with that metaphor idea, the metaphor that I wanted to use was it's a telescope observing this lunar phenomenon. So that's why it's called observatory, and the library is called telescope. So now we've established for our city the blueprint and the foundation. That's what we did since we were here last year. Now let's talk about what we're going to do going forward. So, oh yeah. So, Billboard is the idea, but Billboard in and of itself is pretty complicated. So we have to launch that out in stages as well to make sure that each stage is working if we're going to actually pay people to watch ads. So the first milestone is the pre-market. Now, if you know anything about markets, you know market makers make the market. Pre-market is for people who think this is a good idea and want to promote themselves. They can come in and they can buy ads. No one can watch them, no one can earn yet. But this at least establishes the buyer side of the marketplace. This is something that we will publish on a block by block basis, just like the observatory already publishes. That's been running on Nostr since the summer. And with this data, we will then give confidence to the potential seller side of the market that this is something they want to participate in. Once this is launched, our next milestone will be what we're calling fixed rate billboard. And so fixed rate billboard is basically someone bought an ad and they've set a price. I'll pay you 100 sats to watch this ad. Nextblock isn't doing any promotion for them, but they can take a unique URL. They can put that in their distribution channels. They can send it out to their podcast listeners or their audience, if you're a singer, or whoever you want to send the link to. They'll come into the Nextblock system. If they have an account, they watch the video, they get paid, they move on with their life. If they don't have an account and they have to create an account, now you've brought a seller into the seller side of the market. This establishes an actual market clearing price of attention. We will now know that people are willing to sell their attention, at least at the prices that are being offered to them without any negotiation. But our next milestone allows you to negotiate. So the adjustable rate billboard allows all the citizens of Nextblock City to set the price of their attention. You're basically saying this is the floor. If you won't pay me 100 sats, I'm not watching your ad. I don't care about it. I'm operating in a system where I don't have to be forced to watch your ad. But because you can set your price, now we have real prices on the seller side of the market. And once we have real prices on the seller and the buyer side of the market, our next milestone is the actual attention marketplace. Now this is a big deal because what we will end up when we release this is a ticker for this idea. I'm calling it ATTN. The ticker will be ATTN. And what we will be talking about is how much attention has been bought and sold. And we define attention as 60 seconds of your time. Normalized to 60 seconds if your ad is less than 60 seconds. With this, we have now established the economy of Nextblock City. But the economy of Nextblock City needs people that are consuming and buying and using the services of the city. So the next 3 milestones are how we address that problem. The first one is called the corner. Now this is our test bed to build our actual first social, what we would all here call a Nostr client. But it's got a little angle to it. The angle is that it's only for 21 accounts. You're picking your top 21 accounts that you really want to follow. And as you're perusing that feed, if an ad is triggered, you watch an ad, you get paid. We're limiting it so that we can test this idea without the whole app being deployed at once. But now that you're monetizing your attention with people that you actually want to see, we can then move on to which is the real big idea of Nextblock City, which is the neighborhood. So the neighborhood is where content creators shine. as a content creator, you're posting in your neighborhood. It's an uncapped corner, right? So the corner's capped at 21. The neighborhood is uncapped. But there's a catch. If someone is in your neighborhood, sorry, I messed that up. People can visit your neighborhood. If someone visits your neighborhood, like going to someone's YouTube channel, and a Bitcoin block is fired, and they watch an ad in your neighborhood, you, the content creator, get paid as well. The reason for that is it's your content and or your content curation of your channel, of your neighborhood. That is why that person is there. So if that person is there because of your labor and your work, you should be participating in this economy in that way as well. We have all been getting taken advantage of on social media. This is us giving back a little bit to everyone who's made social media what it is. And last but not least, we have what we're calling Skyline. So now imagine there's this thing called Nextblock City, and you're not a part of it. You don't know what Nextblock City is. You don't know anything about that. But you're in the Nostr world, and you see a skyline off in the distance. What is that? What am I seeing? Why is everyone over there? Those lights, you know? Skyline is a way that you take the Nextblock experience of getting paid for your attention onto the internet at large. So you can, everyone in this room will just call that a Nostr web extension that lets you log into Nostr apps, right? But if you're a Nextblock citizen, you also will be pinged every time there's a new block. And so while you're on the internet at large, you are still reminded that Nextblock City exists. It sits up in your tray in the skyline of your browser.
All right, so that is the plan. We actually have a lot more planned, but that's how we're getting started. Nextblock City is going to break ground very soon, meaning we're going to launch our Billboard app very soon. So we are going to do that via a live We are going to be doing that via a groundbreaking ceremony, so a live stream, and that'll be where we buy the first ad in the attention marketplace. And as you can guess, it will be a Flirting with Bitcoin podcast advertisement. But I saved the best for last. This is where you all come in. So Ian and I are a 2-person company, and we really want to keep it that way. We do not want to hire a sales team. And so we want to do what our approach is thinking, going back to this metaphor of a city that we need to build. We need ambassadors. So the idea here is a referral program that does a 50-50 split on our service fee for anyone that brings someone into Nextblock City and they advertise on Billboard. So think about it this way: if you refer someone and they want to do a $100 ad campaign, they want to pay that out in sats for people to watch their ad, we charge a 20% fee, so that's $20. You would get that 10% split, and that's for any ads that they buy, not just one. And there's no cap to how much you can earn. So I like to say, we've all heard of being early on Bitcoin. I think this is the way we can all be early on Nostr. This is a way that we can all go out there, and I think in a digestible way, learn about Bitcoin and Nostr and explain it to people who can then bring money into the Nostr circular economy, where we can not only earn some money that we can zap out, but also build something that can be self-sustaining. And we really see this as a public good that we can then set up, an attention marketplace where we will have our own, but other people can also set up as well. So if you are interested, you can pull out your phone right now, go to billboard.nextblock.app, and you can register right now for early access.
And you may be wondering, what does early access get me? Well, right now, early access just gets you, continuing with the Nextblock City metaphor. Imagine there's a new city being built, and now there are just boats in the harbor that are anchored waiting to come ashore. This is the visualization that we are trying to put forward for people. So just like the observatory publishes the Bitcoin block calendar every block, I haven't shipped it yet, but the city will also be publishing who's in the harbor, who's in the city, who's a citizen, who's a civilian. Like, we are going to be fully transparent with what's going on in our city at all times, because I believe that the entire social media landscape right now is, if they were all cities, they're all dead cities. You can't see what's going on inside of them. You don't really know. You have to rely on what they're telling you. And because we're building on Nostr, you guys can just check our work. You can just query all the relays and see if the data that we're publishing is true. We're just going to pre-aggregate it and publish it for you in case you just already trust us. This is the power of Nostr, and this is the power of Bitcoin, and I think that we are so early. Thank you.